Alrighty, we're checking out another portable power station on the channel here. This is the EHOM EP1650. So it has 1,024 watt hours of capacity and a 1650 watts pure sine wave inverter. Yeah, looks pretty nice here in the picture. Let's go ahead and grab everything out of the box here and let's see what we got. Alright, so here's everything that comes in the box. Of course, you get the power station. Obviously, looking at that really closely here in a second. You get the manual and you get a car charger cable. So this one has an XD60 connector for the back for the DC input. And the other side goes into your cigarette lighter power plug on your car. And you get a pretty hefty AC charging cable. Here's just a quick look at the specs from the manual. Go ahead and pause the video if you want to take a closer look, but I will be covering most of this stuff here in the video. Here is the left side. Get a nice handle here, of course, to grab the power station. It weighs about 30 pounds, so about the right weight for this capacity. And then you get some vents here for the cooling fans, the ventilation. Here's a look at the back. You get this cover. You get the AC charging port there for the AC charging cord. You get a reset button in case anything gets stalled out. And then you have the XD60 for the DC input. And here is the voltage range. It's 11 to 55 volts and up to 400 watts max. Here's a look at the sticker on the back. Again, same specs as was showed earlier in the manual. This is the Bluetooth name that shows up when you want to connect the app, and this is the QR code to download the app from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. And we'll cover the app in more detail here in a little bit. So as I mentioned earlier, this weighs about 30 pounds, which is about right for this capacity. I'll put the dimensions here up on the screens, like 10 by 10 by 14, I believe. And here's a look at the front, pretty standard. Got a nice little display here. We'll go and turn this on. So on the display, you got some basic information, watts coming in, watts going out, got your overall battery capacity, and then it shows the estimated runtime available. In this case, it's saying 90 hours, I think. Yes, it's 90 hours. But of course, there's no draw on here, so that changes based on the amount of draw being pulled down the battery. So if you have some power coming in and then some power going out, this number will change. You've got 9 outputs here. So you have 2 USB-Cs at 100 watts, 3 USB-As at 18 watts. That's quick charge 3.0. And I think this is power delivery 3.0. Then you have a 12 volt 8 amp car port here. So this is for your cigarette lighter plugs, and this is all on the DC output here. And to turn it on, you just press the button here, get a little light. And then with the inverter, it's a pure sine wave inverter, 3 ports here, 120 volts at the maximum of 1650 watts continuous for all 3 combined, and I think it will burst up to 2400 watts. Alright, so the battery chemistry inside here is lithium iron phosphate. So very standard for a power station in the 1 kilowatt hour capacity range. They are advertising about 4,000 cycles on the battery, which is very typical, 4,000 plus. Usually you'll see quite a bit more than that. This thing will more than likely last at least 10 years to about 80% capacity, so there should be plenty for most people. In terms of the build quality, it's got this sort of glossy plastic on the trim here, and the ventilation is okay in terms of the ABS plastic. This gray plastic here seems pretty solid. I mean, it probably could scratch if you hit something really sharp with it, but the thing should be fairly durable. It doesn't have like some of the rubber bumpers you'll see on some of the other power stations out there, but I think that this is going to be overall durable enough to take most abuse out there in terms of just moving it around. Alright, so I'm going to run a battery of tests here, capacity test, AC charging, solar charging, etc. And at the end of the video, I will give you my conclusions on this model, and we'll see how it compares to some other ones out there. Alright, so we'll take a look at the app here, downloaded from the Google Play Store on my Android device. The Bluetooth on this power station is only active when you first turn on the power station, so when it's in the completely off state. When you first turn on, the Bluetooth will be active for maybe like a minute. And then after that, the internal Bluetooth chip turns off and you won't be able to connect to it. So if you can't see it on the app, you have to turn off the power station completely and then turn it back on, and then it will you'll be able to find it in the app. So once you find it in the app and connect to it, you'll see it here. It'll show it in your device list. So if you have multiple power stations from this company, they'll all show up here, but I only have one, so click on that. There will be an option to do a firmware upgrade. If it doesn't show up, you can go into the settings here, and it will be over here. And I did my firmware upgrade from, I think it's shipped with version 1.00, and I upgraded to 1.02. And if you click on here, it'll say no update currently available, because that, at least for me right now, at the recording of this video, that's the latest version. We'll go over these settings here in a second. Let's go back to the main screen. So you can get a readout here of the amount of time available based on right now no power draw because nothing is plugged in right now. And you see that we're at 37% here. Shows you, this shows the same thing over here. It's like 6.6 hours over here, and it's basically 6 hours and 36 minutes over here. 37% remaining power. Temperature inside there's 23 degrees. So I think that when you're drawing a lot of high powered devices, the temperature inside will go up. And this is, I think in the app is the only way you can see the temperature internally. Obviously, you'll hear the fans going. This is for the light bar. I'll go ahead and I'll turn it on. See, it turns on and off here. And you can control the brightness of this bar here. So it's at 10%. You can boost it up here to 100%. So you can control that via the app. Don't think you can control that via the button. So you have your different outputs here. You have AC, DC. So go ahead and turn on the AC. You'll see the button over there, turn on. Turns on the AC. Turn on and off via the Bluetooth. Same with the DC over there. And then when you have stuff drawing power here, you'll see numbers here. We'll show that a little bit later. And same with the USB ports. It's kind of nice. They have all the USB-A ports and all the USB-C ports here. I'll show you the total power draw, as well as the car port, which is this 12 volt over here. That is also showing up over here. And you also have your inputs in the back, the AC, and also the DC ports in the back. Let's go over to the settings page here. You can change the name if you want. You can change the AC standby time. So if you don't want it to turn off, I think, yeah, you can set it to never turn off. So basically, if there's devices on here that aren't drawing any power, they're plugged in, but you don't want the inverter to be on, you can have a timeout after 30 minutes in this case, or 2 hours, 6 hours, or 12 hours. Or if you need it on all the time, you can set it to never. Now, just keep in mind that if the inverter is actually on, it's drawing a small amount of power. But basically there's power needed to do the DC to AC conversion, and even if there's no load, it's still going to draw a little bit of power. So if there's things plugged in but it's not drawing any load on the battery, the inverter, even though while it's on, it'll still drain your battery. So keep that in mind. It'll eventually go to zero. So if you have it set to never turn off, that'll happen. So I'll leave mine 30 minutes. There's this function called spur flux. Basically, if you plug in some sort of like a heater or some sort of a element or some sort of device that uses like a heating element, some sort of resistive technology, it can manipulate the current and voltage to exceed the output rating of this power station. So it's going to be max up to 1650 watts, but some devices may use more than that, so that allows the power station to manipulate the overall output power of this one, so you can exceed the 1650. So if you plug in something and say that'll draw like 2000 watts, which is more than the 1650, you can turn on the spur flux here and get the power station to power that device. It'll probably do some sort of magic with I think what it does is it actually drops the voltage a little bit, so that you can maintain the current. Not exactly 100% sure, but that's what that's for. There's a lot of other manufacturers call this something else. I forget the names for them. Basically, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room in terms of more devices that this will support. so you can turn that on, but it's off by default. The AC charging power, we'll talk about that here as well later. Some more, I will demonstrate the AC charging in a second. The default is 1200 watts, which is the max, and that's the fastest amount of charging. So it'll go from 0 to 100%, I think in like an hour and 10 minutes, like 70 minutes total, so it's very fast. But you probably don't want to do that all the time if you don't need to. If you don't need really super fast quick charging, it would be better to lower that, which is why they give you the option to lower it all the way down to 200 watts, which is obviously going to charge the battery a lot slower. It's going to take longer, but it'll basically stress the battery less. So if you want your battery to last a lot longer, granted it's going to probably last 10 years anyway, you can do that. It also creates less heat if you're charging it at a lower speed. So probably something in the middle, like 700 watts is fine if you don't really care about time, but obviously if you're pressed for time, you want to charge really fast, you're going to want to stick with the 1200. So there's an upper charging limit here. Right now it says no restrictions. Basically, if you don't want the battery to go to 100%, you can reduce it. Now for lithium iron phosphate, this doesn't really make any sense because you probably want to charge it to 100% most of the time, especially if you're using it in sort of a solar charging setup. This only makes sense if this was lithium ion based, and then you'd probably want it to be at 80% or something lower, but I'm going to leave it at 100% and no restriction. And then you can also have a lower discharge limit. So again, if you don't want this to go to 0 for whatever reason, you want just to maintain a little bit of charge in there, you can set this to 5, 10%. See, it goes up to 20%. So the lower limit is 20%, but for me, for my testing, I'll leave it at no restriction. You can turn on and off the key sound. I've turned it off. It's on by default. That's when you press these keys here, they make noises, but I find that annoying, so I turned that off. So you turn it on, you get a little light there, but no sound. So I prefer that. Screen off time. It's for the display there. Set to 5 minutes. And let's see, what are the range? What's the range? 1 minute. We have turn off in 10 seconds, or 30 minutes, or never. So 5 minutes is probably okay. Leave it there, and then standby time of complete device. So this is the standby time for the whole power station. When the timer is reached, the power station will shut down if there's no power draw on either the AC or the DC outputs. And again, down your firmware upgrade and specification parameters. What's this? Oh, so they have an online manual you can download through here. User manual and manual. I think those are the same. And then there's a firmware upgrade guide. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick demo of the AC charging and adjust the power and show you what the results are like. Alright, so it's ramping up now, starting to charge. You can see here in the app as well, a little animation here in the charging. And over here in the input, you can also see it's at 1222 watts. And you can see over here in display, it says 1225 watts. 54 minutes to fully charge from 38%. Alright, so we'll go into the app here and we'll adjust the charging power. And so we'll go all the way down to the lowest setting. And it should take effect here shortly. Yep, it's already coming down, 235 watts. And yeah, it's showing about the same, 237 here on the display. And at the lower rate, it's going to take, at this lower rate here on the display, it's saying 4 hours to complete from 39%. So obviously if you don't need this to charge super fast, and then you go to the lower wattage, and you'll probably extend the overall life of the battery. Plus it'll create less heat and also less noise. So right now it's at this lower wattage here, 200 something watts. It is less noisy. I heard the fan kind of went to a lower setting, so it's a lot less noisy than at the 1200 watts. But of course, if you need that 1 hour and 10 minutes of very quick charging, if you're in a hurry, then just change the setting and the app to 1200 watts and you'll get the 70 minutes of super fast charging. So I did the solar charge testing on a bright sunny day with two 100 watt panels. I did connect these up in series because this power station does have a high voltage limit on the DC input, and the MPPT solar charge controller can handle two solar panels in series within that voltage limit. Anyways, the solar charging was working well, collecting about 150 watts here from the two panels, which is about right for these two panels. Alright, so here are the results of the capacity testing. Ran the standard test that I always run with my capacity meter and plugged it into the 12 volt DC car charging port on the power station. So I ended up with about 902 watt hours in total, and that's about 88% of the rated capacity of 1024 watt hours, which is right in line with most other power stations in this category. Alright, so I'm going to test the output of this power station, and I'm going to plug in basically every port. So there's 9 devices you can charge or power on at the same time. I'm going to basically try and max out everything without having a shutdown. So I got a couple of power banks here. I'm going to charge up these. Those will charge up at 100 watts. And I'm going to use these two USB-Cs at 100 watts for each of those. I got a couple other power banks here that'll charge at 18 watts for these USB-A 18 watt ports. On this last USB-C, this cord is going to go over here to this battery charger for this battery. I'm going to plug that in. I've got this one already plugged in on the AC. This one here is plugged into the AC port here, which is drawing about, looks like 7 watts right now on the AC. And obviously all three of these can go up to a combined 1650 continuous and 2400 watts burst. But I'm not going to go that much higher. I'm going to go a little bit over, I think like 1800 watts, something like that. I'll show you that here momentarily. But before I talk about this, I do want to talk about this last one here. I'm going to have this 12 volt socket cigarette lighter. I have this on an XT60, and I'm going to plug in this other power station over here to charge this up so I can max out this port at, I think it's about 100 watts as well. And then on these last two AC ports, I have this one here is this heat gun. That's going to be about 300 watts, and then this hair dryer is on this one here. This one here. This will max out at about, I think 1800 watts. So it'll be over the 1650. We'll see here what it does all combined. So I'm going to start with the lower ones first and move my way up to these big ones, and then finally to the ones that are making noise at the very end. And then we'll watch the total output here on this this little display right here. See what it goes up to, because it'll go over 1650, because this will be at least 300 on these three plus the 318s here, like 360. So I'm thinking this will go over 2000 for the combined, but then the AC is going to be probably around 1800 is my guess. So let's go ahead and plug everything in. Okay, plugging in one of these power banks, this one here. And so it was at 7 before, now we're at 25. And let's plug in a second power bank on the other 18 watt USB-A. Now we're charging up that. Alright, so now it is up to 42 watts. You can see the power on time is going down to now 8.1 hours. It's going to continue to go down. Now we're going to plug in the two USB-Cs. So plug in this one here first. So it's at 42, so it should be like 140, about 145 now. Okay, so we're at 145. Now we'll plug in another one. Yeah, this is the second 100 watt USB-C. So now we're at 247, so it looks like it's settled down to 247 for all the USBs that are plugged in. I think we're pretty much, well, okay, one last one here. Gotta plug in this last 18 watt I forgot about. 246. Now we're jumping up to 260-ish. Okay, it's moving around a little bit. Okay, so we're settling around 259 watts now. Now all the USBs are plugged in. Now we're going to plug in the 12 volt socket here to this other power station. Should add about another 100 watts, I think. It's going to take a little bit of time for this to calibrate. Alright, it's ramping up now. 300, 324, 332, 355, 364, 365. Alright, so it looks like settling around 364. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and turn on the last two AC ports here. So I will turn on the heat gun first. And it's going to be noisy, so I'm going to turn the volume down. Alright, so now we're at 682 watts. Now I'm going to turn on the last hair dryer. $22.89, $22.85, or $22.80. Now it's dropping down a little bit, so it's settling around 2280 watts with everything plugged in. And at this rate, the power station says it's going to last about 12 minutes. So like 2279, 22. Oh, the AC inverter did shut down. I think it's because I was over the 1650. So let's go ahead and let's test the AC inverter by itself without the USBs plugged in or any of the DC outputs. So I just want to confirm that. So the AC inverter did shut down. I didn't think it was going to shut down that quickly. I thought it would last maybe another minute because I'm pretty sure I was well over the 1650 rating there. So I'm going to unplug this as well. So just have the heat gun and the hair dryer. So let me just turn on the hair dryer by itself. So go ahead and turn the AC back on. So basically the inverter overcurrent protection kicked in. If you go over the 1650 for a certain period of time, it will basically shut off to protect itself so it doesn't burn out. It can burst up to 2400 watts, but I think I was around 18 something. So I just want to unplug everything here. I just want to show you what the limit of this inverter is. And obviously at 1650 it should stay on pretty much as long as you have power in the battery. But I'm going to show you what the heat or the hair dryer first. I think that was pretty close to the 1650, and that should stay on pretty much indefinitely. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to adjust the volume down as well. This is the hair dryer by itself. It's around 1600 watts. Now I'm going to add the heat gun. This is the hair dryer and the heat gun, and you can see it bursted up to like 1900 watts there. So that's why I shut down, because it was pretty much too much for this inverter. And it looks like it took about 30 seconds before, so let's see how long it lasts this time. All right, so yeah, it was at 1900 some watts there for, it looks like about a minute, and I'll put the time period on the screen at actual time, and then the overcurrent protection kicks in, which is what it's supposed to do. So yeah, you can go over the 1650, but obviously for short bursts of time. I did 1900 watts for about, it looks like about a minute there. So that's actually better than expected. So pretty good. All right, so I think it passed all of my tests with flying colors. I really didn't see any major issues with this power station. I think that it is functioned basically in line with most of the other ones that are out there in the same capacity range, around 1 kilowatt hour. I have a link to a playlist of other power station reviews. You can also do your own comparison to some of the other tests I did and some of the other models I've done. And go ahead and go to that link down in the video description, and you can watch some of those other videos if you want to take a look at some of those. But basically my conclusion is very much in line with some of the other models out there in the same sort of capacity range. And yeah, I think it really kind of boils down to price at this point. It's a pretty good price right now. There's probably a coupon code down in the video description. If not, typically on Amazon, if you go to the web page, there'll be a little link to or a checkbox to a coupon code or a coupon that you can click and clip to reduce the price. So I would say if this is, in the $500 to $600 range, this is of course right now December 2024. That would be a pretty good price for this. Obviously in the future, I expect prices to go down even more. So if you can get it for even less, I think that's a pretty good bargain. Of course, newer and better things always come out. So that's sometime down the road, if you're watching this video, some of my things they're saying here might be outdated. But overall, I think that there's really nothing to not recommend this model. If you feel that these features are within your budget and within the things that you're looking for, then yeah, I could definitely recommend it. So again, link will be down in the video description if you guys want to check it out. That'll do it for this video. Talk to you guys in the next one.